Okay, Derbyites, we are just 1 week away from the TV Critics' Choice Awards, the big winner ceremony. So we're going to talk about who we think is going to win and who Gold Derby is predicting to win as well. So Daniel, I'll come to you. Let's start right off the bat with Best Comedy Series. First of all, there's no Modern Family here. It's the Emmy frontrunner to win #6, and it's not even nominated by the critics.
Well, that's not too surprising. The critics, have been grumbling like a lot of the rest of us that, it's enough is enough with Modern Family. I think if Modern Family hadn't won so many times at the Emmys, we wouldn't be quite as sick of it as we are now, because it's still, I think it's still a good, fairly reliable, consistent show. It's just sort of like, it's not 5 Emmys for Best Comedy Series good at this point. But yeah, so it's not surprised that. I'm not surprised that it's not here, and I think they're gonna use this to champion Transparent for Best Comedy Series.
Mm. Who disagrees with that?
I got to disagree with that. I think Transparent is going to be as strong to win for Jeffrey Tambor, but I don't think it's going to win with comedy series, because I think the critics are going to be a bit looking at this a bit differently than the Golden Globes did when they gave Transparent their prize this past January. I think it's going to go to Silicon Valley. This is a show that definitely has been the critics' darling since last year, and it even increased its number. It got another nomination this year for Thomas Middleditch, and also got T.J. Miller got in. I think it's a strong one to win there.
And Ralph?
I recently changed mine because I'm in the same tank as Charles here, where I think they're going to try a statement. I think Transparent is at this point, pretty safe into the Emmy race. I don't need to much about it anymore. I actually switched my prediction to Jane the Virgin for comedy series. I think because it has a lot of critical love to it. It usually think that it would get Gina Rodriguez in because she, the most buzzed about, but it also scored that series nomination as well as a surprise supporting actor nomination for Jaime Camille. So it just shows that they are actually watching this show. So I got a shot to win a comedy series award anywhere. It got to be here.
Yeah, and I also feel like the critics have supported Jane the Virgin since the pilot in September. So that's, 6, 7, 8 months they've been championing the show, whereas Transparent aired, basically on one night, and people have forgotten about Transparent. But Jane the Virgin, I've switched to that too. Jane the Virgin, I think is gonna win. It's gonna be like the Community win from a few years back, where everyone's like, "Whoa, that kind of came out of nowhere." But when you think about it, the critics are trying to champion shows that they want to be nominated for Emmys and that they want to win Emmys, and Jane the Virgin is the perfect example of that.
Well, yeah, I think Jane the Virgin definitely has the shot. They did show that they really loved it, and I think Silicon Valley also has a shot. But I don't think the Transparent airing a while ago, it aired all at once. I don't think that's gonna hurt here. I don't think the critics are gonna have that sort of attention span problem that the Emmys usually do, and other awards, especially the Golden Globes, sometimes do. And I remember, last year they gave this to Orange is the New Black, and that show, we thought was already going to have a really decent shot at the Emmys, but it was the first time out. We didn't know for sure, and I think that's sort of where Transparent is at this point, and it's also it's a comedy that skews dramatic. And so is Orange is the New Black. I don't think that bothers them very much. They nominated it 4 times, which shows they like it, not just for Tambor's performance, but they like it across the board, just like, the same you could say with Jane the Virgin and Silicon Valley. So, this is one of the few categories where I even though I can see other, shows potentially winning, I probably can't be swayed off of this prediction.
I will say I put Jane the Virgin ahead of Transparent. I think Ralph is definitely onto something, and you as well, Marcus. Even though I never like to admit you're right, since you're my arch nemesis. But I think that for the reason that Ralph stated, that it definitely could win there, and a win by that would be a surprise to a lot of people, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I'm also kind of excited we're going to get a new winner here because Orange is over in drama. There's no Modern Family. There's no Community. I think Parks and Rec has won this before in the past. So there's going to be a new winner for Best Comedy Series at this award show, which is not what we're going to see at the Emmys. By the way, the Gold Derby odds, overall, everyone that's predicting thinks Transparent will win, followed by Veep in second, and then Jane the Virgin in third, and Silicon Valley in fourth.
The only thing with yours, Daniel, what I would point out is that I don't think you can really compare Orange is the New Black and Transparent in terms of the impact that they're trying to make at the Emmys, because these awards are out for Emmy nomination ballots are supposed to come in. So there's much more of an impact that they're trying to make now. I think that was kind of visible through what board members of the BTJA had mentioned, is that we're really trying to influence the Emmys with these off-the-radar performances they forget. So that's why, because I originally had Transparent in there, but thinking about it more and thinking that, if they actually do watch Transparent, it's not really a comedy. Orange was a lot funnier than Transparent was in its first season. So I think that's the reason that I moved Jane the Virgin up and Transparent in second.
I think if that bothered them that it's not really a comedy, they wouldn't have nominated it, and they wouldn't have nominated it so many times. I don't think that's really going to factor in with the critics' decision, and I think you underestimate, Jane the Virgin, they're going to champion it. I'm almost certain Gina Rodriguez is going to win Comedy Actress, and that's really where they're going to want to make their impact at the Emmys. I think we're maybe underestimating the amount that they might want to champion Transparent still for Emmys. It's far from a sure thing in the comedy series category, and it's just possible they just might like it enough. It just seems the 4 nominations, the social impact the show has had, the Amazon Prime, it's sort of a fledgling. So I don't think it's necessarily ruled out because the voters might want to make an impact. It might be ruled in too because they want to make it.
You know what's interesting about Transparent's 4 nominations is that they were all kind of expected. I mean, The Show, Jeffrey Tambor, Judith Light, Bradley Whitford, they're all at least front runners at Gold Derby for the Emmys. But the one that gets me is the Jane the Virgin one for Comedy Actor. That was a real big shock, and it maybe shows that they like the show more than we expect them to. Does anyone have anybody other than Gina Rodriguez winning for actress? I know Amy Schumer is a big threat, but I'm not predicting Amy.
Yeah, I've got Amy Schumer in second, and I've got Lisa Kudrow in third. I think one of them could upset, just because I know they're probably going to have their passionate contingents within the critics, but I feel like if they were going to be that passionate about those projects, I feel like The Comeback might have made Best Comedy Series. Amy Schumer is probably a bigger threat, because they even nominated Josh Charles for guest acting for doing a Friday Night Lights spoof. But if they had voted later, they probably would have also nominated John Hawkes and Paul Giamatti for the 12 Angry Men spoof, where Amy Schumer was on trial for whether she was doable enough to be on TV, which was just brilliant. So those two could upset, certainly, but I really think that the Jane the Virgin support is going to be focused around Gina Rodriguez.
Yeah. So maybe we should just move on to Comedy Actor, unless someone has another point to make there.
Without objection, so ordered.
This might be another easy one. I mean, Jeffrey Tambor seems to have this in the bag. Everyone at Gold Derby is predicting him. Second place is Will Forte, which is interesting. And then Anthony Anderson is in third. What do you guys think about Comedy Actor?
I got Tambor in the lead, and I don't think anything is going to upset him. I have Thomas Middleditch in second place, followed by Will Forte. But, I think Jeffrey Tambor, at least, because these are the critics, and the critics really have championed Transparent, specifically Tambor's performance. I just think he's so far out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If Transparent doesn't win anything else, which is possible, but it's going to win, Tambor. I think we were talking about them championing a person, and that's definitely, Jeffrey Tambor. The only other person I can think of where the critics might want to give that, underdog boost is Will Forte, who I have in second, or Middleditch, who I have in third. But Tambor, it really feels like I really can't make too strong a case for anyone but him, and maybe Forte as a very distant second.
Mm-hmm. Something you guys mentioned last night in the Emmy Slugfest was that Tambor, transcends. He's not just playing himself or a version of himself. He actually is embodying a brand new character, and that's what the critics love. That's what voters love. So if he loses this category, I think it'll be the biggest shock for me of the night.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like a lot of these other categories they're much harder to pinpoint. Definite front runners. But yeah, this one, if Tambor wins, it is the shock. If Tambor loses, it's the shock of the night.
Mm-hmm. I hope he's there. I hope he'll be there. Okay, so comedy supporting actress. Allison Janney won last year. I think she tied with Kate Mulgrew, right? But Kate
yes.
had to switch categories to drama, where she was snubbed. Gold Derby overall is predicting Allison Janney to win again. Second place, Judith Light. Third place, Eden Scher. Ralph, what do you think of this category?
I originally had Allison Janney up there at first, but then I thought she really doesn't need too much help, and the critics are never shy about giving 2 awards to one person, like they did with Tana 2 years ago. So I moved. I think that they obviously really like her. They voted her this before in the tie, before 2 years ago. They didn't nominate her last year, but apparently they're watching the show because they did enough to bring her back into this category. And I think, if somebody actually deserves a supporting actress in a comedy Emmy nomination, it's definitely her for the work she's turned in. So I'm thinking on the as they can.
Which who did you say you had in there?
Eden Scher for the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she might be my personal choice because she's so great on that show. She's so underrated, but I don't know. I just feel like Allison Janney just has all the buzz right now, and I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would normally think Allison Janney, they would probably want to move on from her just because they gave it to her last year. She won the Emmy. She doesn't need a whole lot, extra critical love. But as Ralph said, they're not always shy about doing repeats in this category. And the fact that they nominated Mom for Best Comedy Series this year just makes me think, oh, they really like it. And they really like her on it. Like I can't imagine, was she the only other nominee? I can't remember if she got in for guest acting.
Yeah, she's the only other one.
To get in for Best Comedy Series, basically on the strength of her performance, it's hard for me to see them going somewhere else. I mean, Eden Scher definitely could repeat because she's sort of that underdog who they might like to champion. I would love to see Melanie Linsky, maybe upset, because she's another underdog, but I'm not sure if Togetherness has the same core of passionate critic support that could really get her in for the win. And Judith Light maybe, but I think she's probably the weakest in terms of likelihood of winning for Transparent. So process of elimination, it's hard for me to, I just can't come up with a strong enough reason to predict someone over Allison Janney this year.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm just I have Eden Scher in my number 2 slot, behind Allison Janney. I kind of want to put Eden Scher in that number 1 spot, but as Daniel said, with Mom having that Best Comedy Series nomination, it's very hard for me to think that they would steer away from that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of forgot Mom was nominated for Best Comedy, but that kind of makes the case for Allison Janney in a way. So let's go to Comedy Supporting Actor. Right now, Gold Derby is predicting Tony Hale for Veep, and then Titus Burgess is in second, T.J. Miller is in third. I'm kind of going with the consensus. The Tony Hale episode aired, his winning episode aired right around the time nominations came out. So if voters saw that episode, there's no way they won't give it to him.
I don't know. I have Titus Burgess winning this one. Um, it's kind of weird. I feel kind of weird having him in number one because Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt was the critics' darling, and yet this was its only nomination. But I think he stands out so much in this and consistently that you know, I think this is a good. I think he has a very good shot at winning this and pulling this one out.
Yeah, this category makes me very nervous just because, normally I would, I have Titus Burgess to win, and normally I'd be like, it would be easy for me to say, yeah, he was the huge standout, breakout performer, scene stealer on that show. It's someone the critics can champion and push forward. Might not be, front and center, potentially at the Emmys. But him being the only nominee makes me wonder if there's did they not really like it that much? And so that's what's giving me pause. And I have Tony Hale in second place because I think, even though he has, he's already won the Emmy, just his performances here in that episode in particular might be standout enough that the critics might want to give him the nod here. The one I'm worried about, who I think is also right in the thick of this, is T.J. Miller in Silicon Valley. They nominated it for Best Comedy Series. They nominated it for Best Actor. They really like the show. It's airing now. And he has that element of, we want to champion this person who's an underdog for a potential Emmy nomination. So he fits all those criteria. So I have him ranked a very close third.
By the way, I'm looking last year. I totally forgot that Andre Braugher won this last year for supporting actor. And, of course, he's snubbed this year. So we will have a new winner, it looks like, which is awesome. Ralph, what about your thoughts on this one?
I have Tony Hale for Veep. I just don't think they're going to let Veep go home empty-handed. And I actually have, I also agree with T.J. Miller as being kind of a dark horse, and I think Jaime Camille could be one too. I would have had this for the same reason, just because he seems like fit the kind of mold, breakout star and whatnot, but then the lack for any other nomination for Kimmy Schmidt, I thought if there was any place it was going to get any kind of awards love, it would be here, and he was the only one. So, I mean, maybe they'll give it to him, but I think Tony Hale's got this pretty locked up.
Not even John Hamm and Tina Fey for guest performance. Those ones are really shocking too. And the show got snubbed for a comedy series. Maybe they just didn't watch it. I don't know. Or maybe they watched it and didn't like it. I guess that's a possibility too.
Well,
right?
if they watched it, that's a weird thing. If they had watched it and didn't like it, they would have written that. I mean, they're the TV critics. They're the ones who are actually voicing their opinions about these things as their jobs. And the fact that we all heard so much enthusiasm for the show, from the media, it's kind of surprising that it didn't get more nominations. Maybe it just missed out on a couple of these categories. Which also brings to mind something else that we're not considering that maybe we should. Like in cases where a program only has one nomination, if that show has a core of support, will the fans rally even more strongly around that nominee? And that could happen if any of the voters were as surprised as we were that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt didn't get more nominations.
Right. Or it could help Cameron Monaghan because that's Shameless' only nomination, and there's a lot of Shameless fans. I'm one of them. I would vote for Cameron in this category, but I don't think he has enough notoriety to win this category.
That would suck if he won this category. I think he's great, but I think he's the weakest of the Shameless actors. And last year they had Emmy Rossum that they could have done, and they had Jeremy Allen White. I mean, come on, if they give this to Cameron Monaghan, that's ridiculous.
He had the whole bipolar storyline this year.
That doesn't mean just because you have a storyline doesn't mean that you're good at it.
Oh, okay, we're gonna move on. Comedy guest performer. I have Bradley Whitford. Let me just real quick look what Gold Derby is predicting. Oh, also Bradley Whitford. And then Laurie Metcalf in second and Josh Charles in third. Bradley, what do you have for this category? It's kind of a mismatch of actors and actresses.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have Bradley Whitford as well. I think he's probably the most solid, and it's probably the biggest performance of the group. I think critics will respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Daniel?
I'm predicting Whitford too. Not too confidently. I didn't have anything to go on. I hadn't, gotten through the transparent season until recently, just this weekend, in fact. And watching it, it's not like a big showy performance, but he does have that storyline as Jeffrey Tambor's confidant, and in cross-dressing. He's a cross-dresser, while Jeffrey Tambor's character is actually transgender. But I'm just looking at his competition, and I just can't figure out who else they might go for. I mean, maybe Laurie Metcalf, maybe Becky Ann Baker. I don't really see Josh Charles actually winning for that, even though I loved his guest spot on Amy Schumer, and he's always great on that show. I think Peter Gallagher and Susie Essman are probably non-starters in this race, so almost by default, I think they'll go with Whitford.
I think you're wrong about Josh Charles. I think he has so much love from The Good Wife that he could win just based on, name recognition and love for him.
I don't think he has enough to win, though. I think the love was enough to get him nominated, but not enough to win. He's never won this award before, so it's not like there's been this outpouring of support for him enough in order to win from this organization before.
Hmm. I'm looking. Last year, Uzo won this for Orange Is the New Black for comedy. Of course, now she's over in drama, but she got snubbed. So wow, they really don't mind giving someone an award and then the next year just completely snubbing them.
Which I actually like that. I don't in certain cases I don't like it if they're necessarily too fickle. But if you had one great year, you should win for it. And then if you don't necessarily have as great a year, or there are other people that they want to really focus on and put the spotlight on, then go. They got theirs, and we can move on. I actually don't mind that.
Any last thoughts on any of the comedy categories?
Just wanted about Kimmy Schmidt. I just looked up Metacritic, and Kimmy Schmidt had a 78 on Metacritic. And of the 7 shows that are nominated for comedy series, only one of them was ranked lower than that, and that's the You're the Worst.
And I think You're the Worst got more love as it went along. I think that the Metacritic score might be based on the early episodes of You're the Worst, and then, I did notice there was sort of a groundswell of support as the season progressed for You're the Worst.
All right, so let's move on to drama series. Ralph, you can go ahead and start on this one. This is a hard category to predict. I think Daniel was saying before we started that everyone's predicting something else. It could go any ways. Ralph, what way do you think it'll go?
This is really tough. I have The Americans in number 1. I think the critics obviously love this show, and they've been championing it now for 3 years. Those years, and I mean, maybe Justified could come in. Game of Thrones is its only nomination. Orange Is the New Black won comedy last year. I'm not sure if they're going to want to award drama this year. Empire is a huge cultural phenomenon, but it's not really a critical hit. The Good Wife, it could. I mean, I think it's tired. I've never been a fan of it, but apparently it had an okay year. And then Homeland just seems random in there. So I'm thinking I have The Americans in there, and I'm like maybe 30% confident that that'll happen.
In case anyone's curious, Gold Derby is predicting The Good Wife to win. That's kind of shocking to me. I think if it would have won, it would have won last year for season 5, but of course it was going up against Breaking Bad, and no one won against Breaking Bad. Daniel, who are you predicting for this one?
I'm tentatively predicting Game of Thrones. I know it doesn't have any other nominations, but that could be partly due to the fact that they voted very early in the season when there hadn't really been any standout, any major standout performers who maybe would have gotten over the threshold. If there were a Best Ensemble Cast category at Critics' Choice, it probably would have gotten that. And if there had been, creative arts, craft categories at Critics' Choice, it probably would have gotten a bunch of those. So I'm not sure it has little support because it doesn't have any of the nominations, but I'm still not confident about it. I literally think this category could go 5 or 6 ways, and I won't be that surprised. The Good Wife, they continually support this show. It's nominated 4 times this year. Justified is the most nominated show this year. It's a great show for them to champion that hasn't really been an Emmys darling except for win here and there. The Americans, could win, especially, if they decided that this year when they had the huge reveal to their daughter of what they do for a living, that they're KGB spies, that could stand out. Empire is not really a critical darling. I feel like I'm worried though if the Critics' Choice Award decides to be more like the TCA, the Television Critics Association. Empire is a very program of the year kind of show for the TCA. A show that's maybe not as high quality in terms of the reviews it's gotten, but in terms of cultural impact, the TCA goes with cultural impact over quality. American Idol won and Heroes won, and The Wire never did. So that's So if the Critics' Choice is thinking that way, Empire could definitely win this. The only show I don't think has a shot to win this is Homeland.
And now watch Homeland wins.
Pretty much. I have the Americans in there too, and followed by Justified. I really think Justified is the sleeper one in this category to watch out for because it has 5 nominations, and this is one that they've always liked. They've awarded it here and there. They awarded Margot Martindale when she tied with Christina Hendricks. But I think the Americans is just the one that I kind of just have the sense that it's probably the front runner.
You know what? I just decided. I literally, as I was talking, I was like, I'm just gonna switch that right now. I'm going with the Americans now too. It just, I think Game of Thrones and Good Wife have both won this before, and I don't know if they want to repeat themselves. Didn't they tie?
No, I don't think. Game of Thrones tied with Breaking Bad.
Okay, so Good Wife hasn't won, so I'll put that in second. Because I don't feel like they're going to want to repeat themselves unless it's an extraordinary circumstance, like the last season of Breaking Bad.
And they have awarded Homeland before.
Oh, they had?
Yeah.
I'm predicting the Americans as well, for all the reasons that you guys said. Justified, though, the fact that Justified got the most nominations, it really scares me that could win. But if it was between those two shows, in my mind, I think it is. They're going to give it to the show that has the biggest Emmy chances, and that would be The Americans. The Americans is on its 3rd season, and this is kind of the make it or break it year for The Americans. If it doesn't get in at the Emmys, it might be game over for them. And Justified, it's its final season, so there's really no reason to champion something that's on its way out.
Well, they don't have to have a purpose. They just have to like it.
But they like all of these, so that's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
Okay, drama actor. I'm going with Matthew Rhys for the Americans. What about you guys? Ralph.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got Timothy Oliphant winning here. Why? I have no idea. I think I might have just shuffled these guys around at some point and put them in a place, and that's where it is. Because I have zero reason. The one I hope pulls it off is Aiden Young. That'd be cool to see. But yeah, I have Timothy at first and Matthew Rhys at second, Bob Odenkirk in third.
Gold Derby is predicting Timothy to win, followed by Matthew Rhys, and then Bob Odenkirk in third. Daniel, how many of these guys have done Google Chats with us? I know Aiden did, and Bob Odenkirk is doing one.
Odenkirk is coming up. I think Rhys, we might be in talks with him. I don't know if anything is solidified on that yet. Oliphant has in the past. I don't know if he's set to do one this year. And the others, I'm not sure about either.
So
I have these.
Aiden could win the Gold Derby bump.
He could, and you know what? I'm very, very worried about predicting him because I have such confirmation bias about him. I want him to win, so I'm looking for reasons for him to win. I have him ranked third. I have my top three I feel like are so close I can't quite figure it out. I have Oliphant winning it, though I'm not confident at all. I have Matthew Reese in second, and I have Aiden Young in third. And Aiden Young could be that kind of person, that Michael Cudlitz in Southland, that Tatiana Maslany in Orphan Black. That performance, even though it doesn't have any other nominations for the show, that performance could really get that focus from that underdog pull from a lot of the critics. That show last summer had what I think like a 91 score on Metacritic. It's sort of a show that not a lot of people are talking about it, but the people who know it and love it love the heck out of it. If I'm if I'm an example, and of course I am. So I really think those three are so close. And then I have Odenkirk sort of with an outside chance, very very possible. And then I think Freddie Highmore and Charlie Hunnam are the nomination is the reward for those two. I don't think they're going to factor into the winner. But the other four could definitely all win the shot.
I love how the Emmy race is a three-way tie, basically, between Jon Hamm, Kyle Chandler, and Kevin Spacey. And the critics are like, we don't care about that race. We're going to make our own race.
As well they should.
Okay, so drama actress. I think this award was won a year ago, 9 months ago, when Viola Davis took off her wig.
Oh, for the love of Christ.
She won with that scene. You guys watch when she takes the stage. You'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Marcus, you were right this whole time." I'm so sad that I never done. Who could win if not for her? Taraji.
I have Viola Davis winning. I'm just tired of hearing you talk about the goddamn scene over and over again.
By the way, I was watching Grace and Frankie the other day, and Jane Fonda has a scene where she kind of takes out part of her hair and her eyelashes, and I'm like, oh, here we go again.
Queen Latifah has a scene in Bessie where she's doing the exact same thing. It's a new trend in TV actresses.
She also takes off, a lot more than that, too.
Yes.
Spoiler. Okay, so who else could win here besides Viola? Or is this a slam dunk?
Oh, it's
Hell
definitely
no, it's not a slam dunk. You're insane if you think this is a slam dunk. I have Taraji P. Henson winning this because Empire. If you're going to award Empire anywhere, you award the person who's had the most impact in it culturally going on right now, which is Cookie Lyons. I mean, nobody's talking about Viola's wig or hairpiece or her crying and her snot coming out or whatever she does over and over and over the same thing every single episode. I'm talking about Taraji P. Henson and her the drama that she brings to Empire, the cattiness and her she's incredible in it. And if you're going to award the show, obviously it's not going to get drama series. It didn't get nominated anywhere else. It's kind of like Gina Rodriguez, where you go with the person who's most hot and most it right now. And I think the critics and her reviews were phenomenal when Empire came out. I mean, she was the reason people were saying you should watch the show. So I don't think they're going to back down from their word on that. And in second place, I have Vera Farmiga, because I think she has just been explosive this year, and they've nominated her over and over again. And if there's any season to reward her for, it's definitely this one so far.
Yeah, I have Taraji in second place, but I'm with Ralph on this, that Viola is by no means a slam dunk, and this is one of those categories where I think that there's a lot more to it than might at first meet the eye. A lot of us, you have what the Marcus mindset of, oh, this is a slam dunk for Viola Davis, and which is shared by probably a lot of people. But I think Taraji P. Henson is definitely a big player in this one, and would not surprise me at all to see her possibly win this. And Vera Farmiga, and also Kerry Russell for the Americans. I think it would be weird to see the Americans sweep these three categories, but she definitely brings a lot to it.
I'm predicting Viola to win. I have Taraji P. Henson in a very close second, and it's very hard to tell how this is going to go, but the thing that works against Viola Davis is that How to Get Away with Murder is not a critic's show. I mean, she is a great actress, and she does a great job on the show. I love her on the show, but even me, who loves her on the show and might give her an award for the show, wouldn't really consider giving the show an award. overall. And neither is Empire really, but Empire did get the drama series nomination, and Taraji P. Henson has just got all that attention and focus. And if you want to look for a precedent for that kind of soap opera buzz pushing you with the critics, 2 words, Bellamy Young last year. So she could. I very well might move Taraji P. Henson to win this before the predictions are closed. And I also would not discount Kerry Russell. I mean, they nominated her 3 years in a row. Americans is nominated for 4 awards. They have not let go of their admiration for this show. And if you really want to champion someone who really needs it, Kerry Russell might be it. So I think one of those 3 women probably.
So we all agree Viola Davis is winning. Let's move on.
You know what? Just to piss you off, Marcus, I'm going to put Taraji P. Henson in first now.
I would think that Kerry Russell has a better chance. I mean, look at who's won this the past 2 years. It was Tatiana Maslany, the hot young star who basically wears a bunch of wigs on her show, and so does Kerry Russell. She dresses up as a spy. Every episode she's playing a different character.
She is a spy. She doesn't dress up as a spy. She is a spy. There's a big difference.
I mean, like she dresses up as different characters every week, just like Tatiana did. So I would think Kerry Russell has a really good shot here. Daniel, I think you're spot on. And it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is with the Americans.
Probably has as big, a weave and wig budget as the Americans does. So don't rule that out.
And it's time for them to finally give the Americans something. They champion it every single year. This is the year they need to finally give it a big award. Drama, supporting actor. Charlie, go ahead. Who do you have here?
It's a really tough call on this one. I have Jonathan Banks out front on this one, but that might be. I'm probably thinking too much about that one episode he has called 5-0, which should he get nominated for an Emmy, that should be his episode. And I have Walton Goggins a very close second. I'm very seriously considering putting Walton Goggins in first place, and the other 4 I think are not starters.
Wow. What about you guys?
I agree with Charlie that the other 4 are probably non-starters. It's weird. I'm so conflicted about the lead acting categories, but the supporting acting categories are, were sort of easy for me to pick. At least I might be wrong, but picking a front runner for me wasn't really that hard. I'm predicting Goggins to win this. All the love for Justified this year. Walton Goggins has been nominated for this show multiple times. They even nominated him for Sons of Anarchy multiple times for playing Venus Van Dam. All the love that's on Justified this year, I feel like if it wins one award, this is going to be it. Jonathan Banks could pull it off, but last time he was nominated for Breaking Bad, he didn't even win that one. So, I'm sort of giving the edge to Goggins, and I probably won't change my mind on that one.
Yeah, I'm also picking Walton Goggins. I think they love him so much, and this is the last time for Justified and for Sons, so he could win both categories this year, depending on how much they love him. Okay, Ruff, who are you picking?
I have Jonathan Banks, just because I think they're going to want to give something to AMC, maybe the network, and this is their best place to give something. To them, I have Walter Goggins in second, and I had him in first, and then I moved Banks, and then I moved them back, and I moved them back again. So I don't know who I'll have by next Sunday, but for right now I have Banks in first, because, I don't know. I don't have a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, you're right, though. It's only one episode that he really excels in. He's not given enough to do over the whole season to really merit,
Well, there's another episode where he does have another good arc to him. It's the episode where it's the great episode with him in the pimento cheese sandwich. If you remember that one in the parking garage, which he is fantastic in. I'm just still, but you're right. I'm kind of conflicted about whether I'm thinking too much about that one episode, and I should be thinking more in general and specifically about their love for Justified.
Mm. It's funny. I think Gold Derby's predicting Walton Goggins, and at the Emmys, he really doesn't have a shot, sadly, because he's been snubbed year after year after year.
He was nominated in
Yeah,
2011.
he was nominated.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And that was, that was part of that. We thought, Justified got, nominated. Margot Martindale got nominated and
Yeah,
won.
she won.
Goggins was nominated. Oliphant was nominated. And so, we thought there was this upswing for Justified, and Chris will tell you this. He thought that it would get nominated for drama series, which which wasn't that far out. But then all of a sudden, it just went nowhere, except for the guest acting win for.
Jeremy Davies.
Yeah, Jeremy Davies. Yeah.
Drama supporting actress. I have Lorraine Toussaint. Actually, all of Gold Derby is predicting Lorraine Toussaint. Second place, Carrie Coon. Third place, Christine Baranski. Daniel, who do you have here?
I agree with you on the top two. This category is the easiest drama acting category for me, I think. I don't really, and I haven't even made it all the way through Orange is the New Black's second season, but just everything I hear about Lorraine Toussaint, I can't really, and I can't see anyone in this category who has that kind of heat behind her and that kind of acclaim behind her. So I've got Toussaint in first place. I think she's probably the safest, if you can call anyone safe at these awards, of the drama acting frontrunners. And then I have Carrie Coon in second place. Leftovers didn't really take off with the critics overall, but I really think her performance really caught hold of a lot of people. And then I actually have Joelle Carter in third place for Justified. I don't really think Baranski is going to factor in.
Right.
I have Toussaint in first place, but I have Joelle Carter in second place. I think she was the real surprise because she's been consistently good on Justified, but I think this final season and the second to last season as well, she just really exploded with her character. Just really took off to another level, and I think that she could be, with how much the critics love this show, a win by her would not be surprising at all.
I wish I could switch out the Christine Baranski nomination for an Archie Panjabi nomination, just so that we could get Margulies and Panjabi in the same room for once. That would be fantastic to see.
Well, they'd have the Critics' Choice shoot in two different locations and do insert shots of them both.
When Margulies won this, I think it was the first year, she wasn't there, and Alan Cumming was there to accept the trophy. So Julianne probably won't be there on Sunday. I know she lives in New York, so it might be, she probably won't be there. But anyways, Ralph, what about you?
I have Lorraine Toussaint, and I don't have a reason for anybody else to win except for her. So I think she's probably the most confident besides Tambor of the night.
Okay, drama guest performer. Go ahead and continue with that. Who do you have there?
I have Cicely Tyson. I think she was great in the episode that she had. Obviously, everybody else did too. And I mean, I don't know who else from that list I would pick over her.
I was predicting Cicely Tyson, but on the Slugfest we did after nominations came out, I think it was you. It might have been someone else said, well, she didn't even win last year for, what was that movie?
Trip to Bountiful.
She didn't even win then. So at that point, I switched her. I put her down in second, and I don't know if this is just because I want her to win, so I'm kind of pushing her, but I have Julianne Nicholson for Masters of Sex. Is that crazy?
No, not crazy at all. This category, I'm not predicting Cicely Tyson, and I'm not predicting Julianne Nicholson, but I think my top four are so close. I could just interchange any of them, and I wouldn't be any more or less confident. I have Sam Elliott, in first place. He has the biggest role in this category. He was in basically the whole season. He's going supporting at the Emmys because he won't qualify for guest at the Emmys. And it's the biggest, juiciest role in this category. The critics love Justified this year, So I'm just, I think it will be him, but I have Tyson in second. She could easily win it. I have Lois Smith in third place. She had that one episode, really great standout episode of The Americans. I saw critics tweeting about her right after that episode was airing or when they saw the episode. Julianne Nicholson, though, if it weren't for the shortfall for Masters of Sex this year, I would rank her a little higher. But she's exactly the kind of person who they might want to champion. Sort of underdog. She was overshadowed by Allison Janney last year, all across the board. Even though I think she was just as good. And this year, of course, she stuck around for longer, and Janney didn't really have as much to do. And Janney, because we know how the Emmys work, Janney probably still has a better shot at the Emmys. Nicholson, they could definitely champion her here. None of those four would really surprise me. In fact, I think I'll move Julianne Nicholson to my top three.
So I have Sam Elliott winning because when I saw Sam Elliott was going to be on Justified, I was just giddy, and his performance just lived up to everything I wanted. Just, that face, even though he didn't have his trademark mustache, that face and that voice in a villainous role on Justified, I needed a cigarette afterwards. That's how great it was. But in my second place slot, I have Walton Goggins for Sons of Anarchy. I think it goes beyond just, this is the last season of the show and they like Walton Goggins. There's something about the character of Venus Van Dam that a lot of fans of the show just loved. And, you're not laughing. And at first it was kind of funny, but they actually took her character and made her something substantial, not just like a gag character. And I think that's a lot of credit to the writers of Sons of Anarchy and also to how Goggins portrayed her. And I think this is probably wishful thinking on my part. That's why I have him in number 2. But I would so love to see him get rewarded for playing that character.
That would be awesome. I would love that. And I would say that the first episode, when the character appeared, it probably was a gag. But then they kept bringing the character back more and more and more. And then the fans
loved it.
Yeah, they realized, well, we can actually do something, different here, and they did. And I love Sons of Anarchy so much. I wish it got more love over the years, but oh well, that's another Slugfest. Any final thoughts for drama before we move on to movies?
There are movies?
And miniseries.
Yes. By the way, did they change the name to limited series, just like the Emmys and the Golden Globes?
Yeah, I believe they did. We still have them as miniseries in the predictions there, just because that's what they had last. But the critics' choice are actually, I think they've designated that as limited series now.
Well, according to Gold Derby, these are going to be won by Bessie for movie and Olive Kitteridge for miniseries. Did anybody disagree, or what do you think could upset? I personally think those are the two winners.
I think you're probably right. I think Bessie is pretty safe. I can't see any of those other films winning. I have Nightingale in second, but I don't know if that's going to catch on quite enough to beat Bessie. TV miniseries, a limited series, I think that's going to be a little closer. I really think Wolf Hall has a shot. I think The Honorable Woman, a case could be made for that too. American Crime got great reviews, although I don't think it's quite going to be able to catch those others. But yeah, I have Olive Kitteridge to win that, but I don't think that one's quite as a foregone conclusion.
By the way, did the critics even see Nightingale yet? Because I know Emmy voters have not. I got the big HBO for your consideration box, and inside there's a little pamphlet that says, Emmy voters, you will get to watch Nightingale on May 20, blah, 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 whatever. So did critics watch it? Do you guys know? Or are they just...
somebody had. I had access to it. I interviewed the director and the star, David Oyelowo, a week or two ago, and I got a link to a digital screener. So maybe other critics had access to it that way. But I doubt I was the first person ever to watch it.
If I could have a personal choice, it would be 24 to win miniseries. I just love that the critics remembered it. It aired back in, June or July? And the fact that they remembered to give it a nomination just made me so happy. And Kiefer Sutherland as well. Now, there's absolutely no way it's going to get Emmy love. But the fact that it got in here is just...
It could. 24 has the name recognition. Kiefer Sutherland got into the movie miniseries category for 24 once before. I think I'm actually predicting him for a nomination for Best Actor at the Emmys. Just because that name recognition in those long form categories really goes a long way. we know Ellen Burstyn. We saw how far it goes in the long form categories. If they recognize you, you are 10 times farther ahead of the rest of the competition already.
Okay, so movie mini actor, Ralph, what do you have there?
God, I have Richard Jenkins for Olive Kitteridge. Why? I don't know. I'm holding out hope that my second place person upsets him, and that's Kiefer Sutherland, but probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And Charlie?
I have Richard Jenkins as well. Let me just take a look here. I have Mark Rylance in second place for Wolf Hall, followed by Oyelowo. I don't know. I just think, I think obviously they really responded to Olive Kitteridge, and I think Jenkins' performance is the one thing that I actually liked about this movie. I've been very vocal in my in my opinions on this, but I think Jenkins is probably by default. I think he probably has this.
This seems to me like a weaker category than last year when we had the Fargo guys battling, Sherlock,
The Normal Heart.
Normal Heart, yeah. Daniel.
No, the True Detective was a drama series at Critics' Choice last year. I'm actually predicting Rylance. I was predicting Richard Jenkins for a while, but then I might be wrong. They might want to give it the top 3 awards: movie, miniseries, actor, and actress. But just considering that it's the front runner for miniseries, Frances McDormand, if you're going to go with Olive Kitteridge, that's going to be the actor they're the most likely to go for, the strongest contender for that miniseries. And I just feel like they really like Wolf Hall. They nominated it, I think, 4 times, they might just want to give it an award here, especially because Olive Kitteridge is probably going to be taken care of elsewhere. So that's just a hunch. I might be wrong. I could even see Oyelowo winning. I mean, what he does in that film is unlike what any of these other actors are doing. He's on screen by himself for 90 minutes, going completely crazy. And it's just really a remarkable performance. But it depends on how many, as you say, how many critics have seen it. How the whole film is going to go over with them. I'm not sure. It hasn't even aired yet, so it's still kind of an unknown quantity. So one of those 3 probably. But I've got a hunch on Rylance.
Hmm. And then do we all have Frances McDormand for movie mini actress? I know Jessica Lange surprised last year winning for Coven. And this is her final year, so she could get in for Freak Show.
I have Frances McDormand.
I think this is last year was the kind of year where Jessica Lange could win. This is not the kind of year where Jessica Lange could win. The heat behind so many the Frances McDormand performance in Olive Kitteridge, Maggie Gyllenhaal in The Honorable Woman. Don't count out Queen Latifah. The fact that aired so recently, it could be freshest in voters' minds, and her performance was unanimously praised. Even Felicity Huffman in American Crime has a shot here. So I really don't think Lange has a chance. But I'm going with McDormand, but watch out for Gyllenhaal and Latifah. It's not a lock for McDormand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's do the supporting ones real fast. Sarah Paulson won this 2 years ago, I think, for Asylum, and I have her winning again. I think Gold Derby has her winning as well, so go Sarah. And second place, Gold Derby has Monique, and then third place, Claire Foy for Wolf Hall. Who wants to just jump in here? Either category, supporting actor or actress.
That sounds about right for me for supporting actress. I have them ranked the same way. I think the dual roles on American Horror Story Freak Show for Sarah Paulson, which was also technically challenging, because the effects involved in creating that character, along with her performance, I think it stands out enough here. Monique could, obviously, because Bessie is a much more traditional kind of prestigious biopic, but it is a small role, even though she does steal some scenes. And Claire Foy definitely does have a shot also. I think it's going to be between those 3. Supporting actor is actually a little bit tougher. I'm actually not even sure where to go there. I have Jonathan Pryce there, but I really think Finn Wittrock. I mean, Zachary Quinto won a couple of years ago for playing the same kind of deranged serial killery kind of character in the Asylum season. So Wittrock is that kind of showboating, scene-stealing kind of performance they could go with. I think it would be probably one of those two. Although maybe even Elvis Nolasco for American Crime, or even Bill Murray in Olive Carriage. I mean, it's not a sure thing by any means that category.
Yeah, I have Finn Wittrock winning, but this category is probably the most up in the air. I could see any of the 6 winning. Bill Murray, it seems like a front runner, but I feel like we're predicting him at every single award show, and he never wins anything.
Well, it was only the Golden Globes that he's been up at so far, and so many were going for him at that, and I wisely said, "You're all crazy."
I wish I would have listened to you.
I'll just mark that down for the amount of times Marcus says that.
Okay, so I think that's enough categories for today. We've talked about quite a bit. What are you guys' final thoughts on this? I'll reiterate again, no Modern Family, no Mad Men, no House of Cards. All of the front runners at the Emmys were snubbed, so that it's really going to open up a lot of possibilities, and I hope some good shows win. I hope some good people win that the Emmys will pay attention to. Ralph?
Yeah, I mean, I really I like this. I like that it's very, very different, and hopefully, maybe some Emmy voters are looking at this and going, maybe I should take a look at something like Rectify or re-examine, the last seasons of Sons of Anarchy or Justified. I'm looking forward to the animated series category. Because I think it's a really tight race between 3 of my favorite shows, Bob's Burgers, Archer, and South Park. I have Bob's Burgers to win in that one, but Archer could very well pull off a 4th consecutive victory in that one. So I'm on pins and needles for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get Archer personally. I mean, it's never really, it's sort of one of those comedy blind spots that I have, like Veep, and it's just like, why are these people funny? I want to drown them all in like a toilet bowl, this is so I'm really rooting for Bob's Burgers in that category. Another one we didn't talk about that I think they're gonna do. I'm predicting last week tonight.
Yeah, too.
Last week tonight has been so great, and it's really taken sort of the Jon Stewart mold and taken that even farther. The way premium cable allows him to. I think Last Week Tonight has been one of the TV stories of the last year. So I would love to see them go with that for Best Talk Show, and I think they actually will.
Yeah, I'm predicting that too.
Same.
Last year Jimmy Fallon won, so that could repeat. It's kind of surprising Dave Letterman was snubbed in that talk show category, but they do their own thing. Ralph, what are your final thoughts?
I hope with some of these winners that we think are going to happen, that the critics, what they hope happens, having an impact on the Emmy race, actually does come true. Because I would love to see deserved nominees like Gina Rodriguez get in there. And on that category, I do like Amy Schumer a lot, but if somebody has to upset Gina Rodriguez, I really hope it's Constance Wu from Fresh Off the Boat, because she is incredible in that show, and I was so happy she got nominated. She's going to be in a tough category to get into at the Emmys. I think she should have gotten supporting, but she didn't, like Wendy. But we'll see. I don't know. I think these are great because they give some of these non-Julie Bowens and everybody else that keeps getting nominated over and over a time to get on stage and say something cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ralph and I will be there next week, so we will make sure to give you guys the complete coverage. I think we're going to be on the red carpet and inside the theater, right, Ralph?
We are.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.